That's enough. Right, let me get Facebook on, Bob. Good afternoon, folks. Well, speak, David.
That's all right. Aye. It's what you do when your teachers wears a hearing aid. You sit there going, the teacher's going like,
Right, that's Facebook on Bob. Right, anyway, good afternoon, people. How are we this afternoon, David? As if I didn't already know.
all right, I suppose. Aye. It's been a typical Easter weekend. It's like a lot of people are bored senseless with it. Other people really enjoy it because it's a decent time off. You get a Good Friday, you get the Monday as well. So yeah.
Yes,
But
you've been enjoying that as well. Yes.
to me, sorry to bring it up. I am a Christian, right? For me, this has another meaning. This is a day when I believe the person that actually is, if you like, the king of the world, the God, actually gave his life for me and you and everybody, right? So,
Everybody's entitled to their beliefs, dear boy.
yeah. So at the end of the day, it's like I don't have a problem with that, and I don't have a problem with all the jokes and all the rest that go on about Christianity. So there's jokes about everybody else. It's the main thing. As long as I'm not left out.
One thing we can say about religious groups is they're reasonably quite good at having fun, poked at them and poking fun at themselves.
Except if you're Irish.
And of course, there's another thing that's happened of significance today we will get to. But today, folks, because it's a bank holiday, we're going to be quite relaxed. And if you've got anything you want to talk about, you can batter it in the comments. We do have a couple of subjects we are going to cover because they have been big talking points. And the first one we're going to start with, David, in a few minutes once we see who's in. Let's be polite and say hello to a few people. Hi, Lorraine. Hi, Robert the Bruce. Lorna Shields. Rosie McGregor. Stephen Nichols. Alistair Kerr. David Milligan. All right. You don't need to cough. We know you're there. Lorraine Hay. Still no Facebookers in. But numbers are climbing nicely, folks. Obviously, we're not expecting a big audience today with it being a bank holiday. We're expecting a few people will be out and about and will catch us later and catch up.
To any of you that joined us, thank you. That's very good of you.
Ninja's there. Margaret Mackay's there. Hey, Martin Boyd's there. Ginger Giraffes, how are you, Gingers?
Hi, Ginger.
Right. I guess we'll start with John Swinney and his summit to combat the right. This up and coming Wednesday at Butte House. He's invited like-minded parties to come along and discuss combating populism and the rise of the right. Now, interestingly, obviously Reform UK haven't been invited. The Conservatives have said their leader.
Hang on, David. I'm sorry, I'm busy on a broadcast at the moment.
I know, he just wants to listen to it.
Oh, he just wants to listen to it.
Anyway, so Reform haven't been invited. The Conservative leader, Russell Finlay, has said he's no gone. So that leaves the Greens, the Single Alpha Party MSP, and we don't know, they seem to be pretty much in the right, actually. When you think about it. The Greens, obviously, the Lib Dems, and the SNP, and Labour. Now, the idea that Labour's going to show up is quite funny to me. But halting the rise of the right, populism, do you think John Swinney and the other political parties in Scotland have it within their ken to do that, David?
Well, for the first thing, it's like I don't know what John Swinney expects to get out of this exercise. It's like, as far as I'm concerned, all it's doing is it's advertising reform yet again, getting them on the end of people's tongues. Talk. You heard about reform. You heard about, and seriously, the best thing that somebody like John Swinney could do is shut up about it. Literally.
Ignore them. I've said that repeatedly. I mean, one of the big problems, one of the reasons why this mob have come to the fore is because the amount of press coverage, unearned press coverage they've been getting. I mean, the Lib Dems are a bigger party, but Reform has more coverage.
Let's just look back briefly at the TV. What figure? I wouldn't even say political figure, because it really wasn't really voted in by anybody in the UK. There was he was an MEP for a period, but Nigel Farage was never off the TV. There's one time on my TV I could guarantee that each political program, would see Nigel Farage in it, and you think to yourself, why is that? Why is that? Is it because people who back reform, people who are ultra right wing, want to see a right wing party get into that situation where they've got power? We're getting there bit by bit. In England, who vote in the Prime Minister of the UK, look as if Reform are going to take their hearts and minds. Although it's been, I think, the weekend or poll at the weekend.
Let me address this one, David, for Roddy. No, Roddy, we can't register as a charity because we put political content. We did look in here. We did look in here. No, we can't. We can't register as a charity. As I say, because we put out political content. Now, what's interesting about what you're saying there, David, this is interesting, folks, is poll at the weekend, I put it up on my Facebook timeline, suggests that Reform would win the next Westminster election in England.
No, in the whole of the UK. So, in other words, yes, they would vote it, they would win it in England, but if you think of it, the people of England is the people of England who vote in the government and the Prime Minister and all the rest of it, right? So therefore, they are asking for Nigel Farage to be in it.
They're asking for a right-wing government, but what's interesting about that, David, is in England, they're pissed with Labour, they're pissed with Tory, as we discussed earlier. Yep. They have other options. They could have been straight in the middle with the Lib Dems. They could have moved left or centre way with the Greens, but they've chosen to go to the extreme right.
Yeah, they're not going to go Lib Dems. They're not going to go Greens.
Yeah, but that's interesting because a wee bit later on we're going to talk about how it's gone the other direction here in Scotland.
Yeah, all right.
Based on a study we're going to talk about. But as I say, it's interesting that their political choices are totally different to ours.
Yeah.
We have stayed staunchly left of centre here. Now, John seems to think that the right's become a problem, and he wants to get progressive parties together to fight it.
Yeah.
But I mean, why would Labour be showing up?
I think Sawa lives in the forlorn hope that the people of Scotland still believe all the lies that he fucking tells. Excuse me, excuse the French. Sawa is a twisty little bastard, and if I saw him to his face, I would say it to his face. He's a twisty little bastard, and he will turn up. He'll turn up in the hope that he makes the people of Scotland. Well, if he's anti-reform, anti-extreme right, then he must be all right. Fuck off.
Brian's asking an interesting question here, David. If Farage does become PM, will that be good enough reason for Labour and Lib Dems to shelve their opposition to Scottish and Welsh independence? No.
One would hope that would be a plebiscite election, one would hope that people of Scotland would have fucking wakened up and realised that they need to put their weight behind the SNP, get as many SNP MPs down there so that we can declare independence before the nutter, absolute nutter, Nigel Farage and his nutter friends take over.
Now, as I say, it is interesting the direction of travel. The English have always been a wee bit more conservative than the folk in Scotland, but this is a different leap altogether. This has gone beyond, left of centre, right of centre. This is, but as I say, the reason I'm talking about Labour being there is, as we know, Starmer has taken the Labour Party way from centrist to right of centre, and we've got Anna Sarwar running about up here, trying to make out that they're still the party of the people and things like that. Now, if we look at opinion polls since this Labour government came to prominence in the UK and have formed the administration, their support in Scotland has absolutely collapsed. One policy move after another.
Yeah.
It's been quite disastrous, and it's also been quite funny.
Yeah, the one thing that if it was televised and it was broadcast, and the people of Scotland would be guaranteed to go, oh, we're not voting for reform, is the fact that Farage has umpteen times said that we're going to have an insurance-based health service. End of story. As far as I'm concerned, immediately people realise the ramifications of that statement. If he is a Prime Minister, then bang goes your NHS the way it was. It's gone. You are now paying insurance to get healthcare. And if you don't pay insurance, you're going to get the most basic of healthcare that you can possibly get. You won't get free prescriptions. You won't get any of that at all.
People don't believe you when you tell them truths like that. Yeah, I mean, we told them in 2013 that it would be a Bojo, and Bojo would be Prime Minister and there would be Brexit. And they tell us we were scaremongering, David.
Yeah, I know.
We'll get Farage as a Mark II Trump peer for Robert Bruce. Actually, I think Starmer's got more in common with Trump than Farage.
Yeah.
Starmer's an authoritarian. He rules his party like a dictator.
Yeah.
And he throws out decrees.
Yeah.
And actually, since Bojo's mob, in fact, all the way back to Theresa May, they found a mechanism of bypassing Parliament. And that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they're targeting the same people that Trump's targeting to protect the same people that Trump's protecting.
Yeah. And also the judiciary. What they're doing is they're agreeing with the judiciary when it lands on their side, but then they're talking about getting rid of the judiciary and overturn it when they say something that isn't for the present government. That, my dear friend, is fascism writ large.
As I say, I think Starmer's got more in common. Yeah. So, David, I suppose the one we're going to have to move on to and talk about is the decision again, the interpretation of the Equalities Act 2010 by the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
The Equalities Act seems to have been written to say there's only two genders.
Yeah.
Now, John Swinney, the First Minister, has become under pressure, apparently, according to the rags, to apologise to the women of Scotland. And I still can't work out what it is he's supposed to be apologising for.
Yeah, Starmer has been asked the same, to apologise.
Right? Well, he's been asked to come down one side or the other.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, much as I don't want to give any advice to either politician, because I like neither, but anyway, that's just me, right? Is keep your trap shut. Don't say anything.
Now, David, as you know, I tend to follow these things and think quite deeply about them. Now, this all started halfway about equality in public boards here in Scotland, and the reason why it got to where it was had to do with the gender wars that were started towards the end of Theresa May's career, along with an atmosphere of hostility towards immigrants. The hostile atmosphere, it was called, you know.
Yeah.
Now, the culmination of that is where we are today, because the gender war sort of empowered these three women to think that it'd be all right to challenge progressive policies that wanted to give more people equal rights,
yeah,
and take those rights away from a section of the population. Now, if we're to take that to its
extreme, yeah,
through and through, you know where I'm going with this, didn't you?
Mm.
They came for me, or they came for them, and I did nothing.
Yeah.
When they came for me, there was nobody left.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, folks, you've got to understand how we got where we are. Culture wars, Scottish Government and Scottish Parliament passing a bill to give gender equality in all public body boards,
Mm-hmm.
to the wording of that legislation being challenged by a group of feminists,
yeah,
financed by somebody with plenty of money who, for some reason, thought it'd be a good idea to take equal rights away from that section of society.
Yeah.
That's how we got here. Now, when we get to the press coverage of this, David, over the weekend and today especially, it's been quite interesting. The press run Starmer to come out in support of the court judgment. And then, of course, those who are looking at redressing and rewriting the 2012 10 Equality Act in order to give the human rights back to this section of society, they have been labelled as plotters, whereas the three women who brought the case for Women for Scotland,
yeah,
financed by J.K. Rowling and a few others, they are being played out in the press as heroes.
Yeah.
It's, you know, we know there's something wrong with society when we celebrate the dehumanising of a section of society. And we've seen this worldwide, the dehumanising of the Palestinian people to justify the slaughter of them by the Israelis.
There are certain parts of the world where if someone is a lesbian or is homosexual, that different from trans, we're taking back from transgender at the moment, just where lesbian or gay, right? Where if it became common knowledge that you were such a person, and there was evidence that you could actually end up beheaded or hung or whatever, or thrown off a tall building or whatever, right? And if we allow these kind of, if you like, moves to continue, that's the extreme that we end up with. We end up with people that are transgender. They become hated within society. They become hated to the point whereby you've got to lock them up.
But this is a fine example where somebody rich with a bee in their bonnet had enough money to spur another few people on to upset the apple cart, and the outcome of that was 500,000 people lost some of their equality, their equal rights.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the influence of these people getting further and further into politics all the time, David, or into influencing the agenda, if you like. It's an end to the wedge.
Best thing we can do as people is independence. It's time for it, guys, because otherwise you're going to allow these people to creep into our legislature. You're going to allow these people to creep in with their objectionable idiocy all the time. And you're going to see whereby people that are minorities end up being disengendered. They end up being torn apart, locked up, whatever, right? That's wrong. As a civilized society, we don't behave in those ways.
But
If you hate someone because they believe they've been born the wrong gender or body, there's something wrong with you, right? There really is something wrong with you. I do think that a lot of these people that have got that kind of feeling, they've never met anybody that's transgender in their fucking life before. I have. I've met two people. One of them, a young friend of my daughter's, and another one I actually met at one of the walks, right? And both of them, nothing wrong with them. They're human beings. What the fuck is wrong with people that women have anything against the?
See, I want to go back to I'd like to go back to press coverage on this.
Yeah.
And it's how the people who advocated taking away rights for 500,000 people who've been portrayed as the heroes, and those in Parliament now who are looking at addressing the situation to give these people their rights back are being called plotters, and the Prime Minister is being pressured to come out in favour of the court's judgment.
Yeah.
Who's pressurising them?
But was it a court? Was it actually a court judgment, or was it?
Oh, it was an interpretation, David.
Basically, it was an interpretation. That's what it was.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's an interpretation that's got ramifications for 500,000
and
people.
for them to put up a picture of Harry Potter, sorry, J.K. Rowling, right, with a cigar and a glass of wine, you know, what's that? What is a cigar? Has she got a willy that size? Is that what it is? And that's in fact she's trying to tell us she's got a willy and come on, are we? This is ridiculous. This is dandy and Beano stuff. And they're trying to drag people a certain direction with this point of view. These people that are transgender are doing you no harm whatsoever. And the mere fact that they had a certificate to prove that they're either a man or woman, they've now transitioned into a man or a woman, means something, should mean something, should be something they can actually lift out of their pocket and go, look, I'm sorry, I am a woman because I've been through a certain journey in my life. Right? Fine. What harm are they doing you? If however it's a man who's dressing up as a woman and wants to go ahead and attack women and women's toilets and all the rest of it, that's a different thing. We've got police for that. The courts would actually lock somebody like that up and throw away the key. Of course they would. Yeah.
It's just the way it's been portrayed. It's
Yeah.
been portrayed that people trying to deny others standard human rights and standard common rights are somehow heroes.
I feel dirty even having to discuss this. I really do. When it comes down to harmless people's rights, then it's important that we say something. Yeah.
Rachel, you're in. How are you? Rachel for the accounts has dropped by. Rachel, hey, Rachel, when you see Larry, tell him to keep shiting in Starmer's shoes, will you?
Larry the cat, that's right.
Aye.
Yeah.
Right. I have what we got in the comments. Oh, aye, please, folks, have a look at Random Scottish History's channel.
Yeah.
Jenny does some marvellous stuff. And Alistair saying, chat, please subscribe to Save Grangemouth's channel here. And he's put the link up. Okay. So, folks, please support the Scottish media. All right. Now, David, the next subject while we're waiting questions coming in the second half, actually, we've not got nothing for the second half. So, when we get questions coming in and just something to talk about for the audience, the next wee subject was inspired by this. I'll put it up. Yes, voters don't change mind as they get older. No evidence that people switch to no, research finds. Now, you know, like him, David, when something like that comes along, I want to know what the research is.
Yeah.
You know, I want to know what the research is.
when you look at it as being the Yes family, yeah?
Yep.
The Yes family might lose people through death,
Yep.
whatever, right? But do you think the Yes family would turn towards no for any other reason? No, I really don't think they could, unless they've been massively misled by some idiot, right? Some unionist idiot, right? Like example, the one I saw the other day there in the Herald, where it said, "Look at that! They've got a £20,000 blooming pay increase, right?" When the rest of us are like, they haven't. They haven't.
No,
And
they've only just started taking the pay increases they've had in the last 18 years.
that's right. That's right.
But hey,
So those the people that are going to vote no, we're going to vote no anyway, right? People that have voted yes and decide to vote yes, they tend to stay that way because
Right.
you look at Westminster and they go, "What a bunch of fucking idiots!"
Anyway, David, you know me. When somebody says a study says, I want to know what the study is.
Yeah.
You know. So I went and got the study. And believe it or not, the study is called Is Scottish Independence Inevitable? Anyway, it's from the Centre on Constitutional Change. And I asked the question if a Scottish independence is inevitable.
Right.
And it looks at demographics.
The thing is, though, right? It says the offer is Centre on Constitutional Change, and then it says by Mark McGokin, right? It really tells you nothing. I think what you've got to do is you've got to delve deeper and find out who actually make up the Centre on Constitutional Change. Because as far as I'm concerned, everyone has a political bias
Yes.
somewhere, yeah? And therefore, let's imagine this was written by a team of unionists, for example, right? They may be writing this with some bias involved. They might not be aware of it, but they may still have some bias involved, right? And will tend to write it in such a way that it's of benefit to the unionist cause, right?
Right.
But having looked at it, I can't see where they've done that. So it'd be worthwhile finding out who the people are that are
That is
involved.
quite balanced. I'd like to know who the three so-called panel of experts were, but what they've done is over the 10 years since, or 11 years since that vote, they've had a look at demographics. They've had a look at the fact there's a generation coming through that's known nothing but devolution.
Mhm.
And the conclusion they've come to is failing something extraordinary is inevitable.
Yeah, okay, yeah. When?
Which is not what you would think that would be the outcome. If it had a pro-union bias, you'd think it would be a pro-independence bias, but it's not looking at it from a biased point of view at all. It's looking at demographics.
Right, you've looked at the research, right? Give us some numbers.
Some numbers.
Aye.
As in what the research is based on. It's based on polling, obviously.
No, not talking about how many die on each side.
There's 60,000 people die in Scotland each year. The majority of them vote age.
Yeah, right.
On an average year. So it looks as if 15% of those who voted no in 2014 have shuffled off this mortal coil since 2014, and about the same for the yes. Now, the latest polling shows that 16 to 35-year-olds are 68% yes. It gets a wee bit lower as it goes up the age brackets. But what they've concluded is actually it hasn't followed normal trends as it would back at 2014 and prior, where people became progressively more centrist as they aged.
Or liberal.
And they become more liberal. as the age. But they've got more to protect and things like that. So as they used to say, they would go for Labour to Conservative as they got older.
Yeah.
Now, as we know, that stopped here in Scotland.
Yeah.
The Brexit went on that. We tend not to get more Conservative as we got older now. And the other thing they found is the amount of people coming through who only know devolution and want better and independence is going to go up.
Do you feel that social media has had a hand to play in some of that? So in other words, if there was no social media, right, during the run up to the 2014 referendum, right, there's a big rise in people joining in and saying, "Oh, I'm for independence," right? You would have found that the arguments that the papers put on would be widespread and not countered at all by anybody, because you would need those people to have a voice, and they did not have a voice. So, what do you feel? Do you feel there was an effect using social media?
Oh, aye. You know what the massive effect? We've been involved in getting the first SNP minority government and then involved with getting the majority government through social media. We weren't working together then, but we were involved in that idea. Well, I certainly was anyway.
So looking at that, right? Looking at that and looking at that went on, right? We started off at 27% independence back in 2012, May 2012. That's what the rate was, right? Okay. Then as we got closer to 2014, we stepped over the 50% yes.
Yep.
And within, because the three amigos came up the road, and it basically broke border with a situation where people actually wound back and went back to 45%. We still had a large increase between 27% and 45% when you look at the totality of it, right? And also there's the question of fraud that went on, which I personally, I still believe there's a certain degree of fraud went on, institutional fraud, not fraud by individuals trying to play silly boys. We're talking institutional fraud, right?
Aye.
And so that was another side of it, right? But looking at that side of it, if people do not get their head round this and realise the only way for us is independence, and keep your eyes on the prize. Thank you, Duncan. Perfect.
Price changes what David.
Then we're stuffed. We are well and truly stuffed. We need.
I want to go back to the research and demographics.
Appreciate that.
Of course, as we know, if you base it on that on the poll of 68% of 16 to 35-year-olds, right, and then the amount of deaths, obviously 32% would still concrete vote no.
Yeah.
So there's enough to keep it 50-50 at the moment. But progression of time,
Is it family stuck in their ways?
So the research also tells us that most children don't vote in the same direction as their parents anymore.
Aye, now that's important, because at one time it would have been my parents voted Labour, so I'd have voted Labour all the way through, right?
Yes, aye.
Now that's frankly not the case with me. I was Labour because I was down in England, right? It was only choice at the time, right? But you look at people now and the fact that they are not following what their parents are voting. If their parents definitely are no, then the young ones have got every right and every opportunity to say, well, what's the truth of this?
You need to excuse me sniggering there. Rachel keeps putting up funny stuff about Larry the cat in the comments.
People are, for goodness sake, I don't do it when you're putting out something, so be careful, right?
But I'm watching for questions, David.
Yeah, I know.
Aye, so anyway, the conclusion of the research is that eventually, obviously, the yes side and the yes demographic will win out, especially as it says that people who are coming to the conclusion of yes, once they get there, they don't go back.
Well, did you know,
Conservative.
you know that there's an MP, I forget the name of the MP, English MP, sorry, Scottish MP, who this week is named by a newspaper as saying they should make it against the law to stand against the union. Should make it against the law to, effectively promote independence.
No, is that what Michael Gove tried to do when he said that when he redefined extremism?
Yes, that's right.
People laughed at that.
There was another one, Nigel, what's his face? The Lib Dem. Oh, who the fuck was the Lib Dem leader that went into coalition with David Cameron?
Nick Clegg.
Nick Clegg. I keep on getting this prick Nigel. Nick Clegg, right? Yeah, he was the first one to mention the word extremist. That was it. We're all extremists because we support Scotland being an independent country. Well, I say all extremists rise up together and blooming let them know time's up, boys. We're independent.
What the research also goes on to say is that a bit of constitutional thinking would slow it down, but the demographics mean the conclusion, the outcome is inevitable. So I just thought we'd talk about that. I wanted people to know where the research that the story was based on came from, folks. So if you want to read it yourself, it's the Centre on Constitutional Change.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, super chat. Just the fact that between 1861 and 1891 we were robbed of a big number.
£131,684,319.
So through underfunding and overtaxing by Westminster states the case of how Scotland would have fared without the Union. And I see the people are laughing at his years figures again.
Well said, Johnny. Well said, honey.
I mean, there we go, David. The Gers figures passed us by this year without a mention in the press at all.
Now, why is that?
Because they're ridiculous. And see, when I think back to the other years, I used to break it down and fucking put it all out on Facebook. And say to myself, shoot me now. That was worth doing, David, because then people got to know it was nonsense.
That's right. We needed to do that. And that was your social media thing. That was your social media thing, doing what it should do. At one point, social media was 75% yes.
Aye. Well, as I say, stats though are fascinating. But as I say, folks, if you want to read this report, that's where you'll get it. The Centre on Constitutional Change.
Yeah.
Just stick it in your search engine. It will come up. And down the side, there's a list of other interesting topics as well that they've done studies on, like making sense of politics in these islands, building on shaky foundations, why Starmer's Labour government could be decisive for Scotland's constitutional future, and call for papers, Scotland in transition. Right, so there you go. There's quite a few studies on it.
David's, both of us, both hate this phrase, grievance politics.
Aye.
Grievance politics means that you're actually telling people, hang on a second, it's not like that, it's like this. So that turns out to be a grievance on your part because you've told the truth.
Aye. Yes, that's where we are, of course.
It's a bit like a conspiracy theory. At some point, with a conspiracy theory, enough people voicing it, and to the point of where, why are you mentioning conspiracy? You're the one that's mentioning conspiracy theory, because in actual fact, what we're doing is we're just quoting facts. So.
Well, see, I love that. And I mean, this term, grievance politics, as you say, point out the truth to them, and they'll try and distort that truth to turn it into a grievance.
Yeah.
It's a bit like them saying, this is devolved, and me saying, but the fucking budget's no, so I can't do nothing, you've got me handcuffed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is funny as hell. Really funny.
Right. The dictatorship of Rob Scotland, was that? Rob Scotland until Scotland take our indie this vile, corrupt British Union. Ah, okay, right. We're looking for a subject that David and I can have a go at, get our teeth into. Come on, boys and girls, please.
Well, we'll say that we better mention the passing of Pope Francis this morning.
Yes. I am a Protestant by birth. I'm a Christian, and as far as I'm concerned, it's like, good man, nothing wrong with him. And yes, sorry to hear he's passing. I thought he was okay, thought he was all sorted out, but unfortunately not.
Well, as we know, he was 88 years old.
Yeah.
He's just had a fight with pneumonia.
Yeah.
He seems to have a wee rally around, which allowed him to tell J.D. Vance he wasn't going to fucking see him.
Yeah.
And also to allow him to give the Mass in Rome yesterday.
Yep.
And he passed away today. Now, I'm no religious man at all, David. I don't pay very much attention to these things. But of course, as we would expect, John Swinney, being the leader of the country, he leads at tributes. So we'll have a wee look and see what he's going to say, because obviously somebody did a bit of research and tell him. And of course, condolences to the Catholic community, because my neighbours down the stair are devout Catholics, and normally at this time they'd be joyful singing and all that, because they really are.
I was once told by a Protestant vicar, minister, whatever you want to call him, right, was that Catholic priests, you don't ever see any of them being born again, right? I assure you, I've known a few Catholic priests in my time, and it's like, yes, I've known a few of them that have been born again, as they call it, right? So enough of that nonsense.
I don't, as I say, but we'll have a look and see what the First Minister had to say, because I can't really say much about this, except for condolences to those in the Catholic faith.
Well, the hatred that exists between the Protestant faith and the Catholic faith. Let's discuss that just a second. God wants your love, not your hate. End of story. Bye. End of sermon. There you are.
Well, as I say, it all means nothing to me, David. So let's see what the First Minister had to say.
Yeah.
I do feel sorry for the young family beneath us. They're devout Catholics, and at this time of year, their household's a joy to hear. Today it's flat as dead.
Yeah.
So let's see what the First Minister had to say. To the Catholic community and to the wider community, shall we?
The Catholic community in Scotland will be feeling deeply sorrowful at the passing of Pope Francis. Pope Francis has given such powerful leadership to the Catholic community. He has lived out the message of Jesus Christ. He has lived out the embodiment of supporting the poor, of tackling injustice, of acting to support the weak in our society. He has lived that out in everything that he has done as the Pope. And I know the Catholic community will feel his loss very acutely, but I think the loss of the Catholic community will also be reflected in the loss of other communities in Scotland and around the world who valued the principled spiritual leadership of Pope Francis, which has been always undertaken to make the world a better place, and we're profoundly grateful to him for that.
Very dignified.
Yeah, very dignified, yes. Yeah.
And as I say, John and yourself are religious people. It's not an area I'm even comfortable with, you know.
That's fine. Hey, listen, don't worry about it. I'll say a word for you when the time comes. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. The worms will enjoy me. Right, funds G.D. Pants did what Letters did to the Queen, to the Pope. A lot of memes about it on social media. I can't say I've seen them, Alistair.
I tend just to glaze over things like that. One time we used to get really angry about things like that, about the silly memes about Jesus and all the rest of it. But now I think to myself, this is stupid. God's bigger. then all you lot put together, right? And if he wants to go ahead and sort you out, let him carry on. Doesn't need my
As
help.
I say, David, it's no, to be fair, it's not an area I'm comfortable talking about.
Yeah.
You know, and it's nothing to do with, you know, don't talk about football, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion. It's not that. It's just not my bag. It's just not my bag.
Sex,
I had to
religion,
look at it back when I was a teenager and went, nah, that's
religion and politics is what the whole of the taxi community in Dublin live on. Seriously, you give them 10 minutes in a taxi with you, they cover all three subjects every journey: sex,
David,
religion, and
it's
politics.
likely to happen to me because I haven't lost fuck on Dublin. And it's no on my bucket list.
That's a great place. There's that. I recommend it too. I really do.
I'm going for a weekend away in Arica this weekend, and you know, it's only 53 miles from my house. I'd really just pop bang for it.
You know, I remember being there.
I like being here.
The wife and I went to a wee pub, right? And outside there was an accident. Blooming heck, everybody in Arica came out. Just somebody had been trying to pull out behind a vehicle that was parked, right, and hit them like that, right, and the whole of Arica turned out for this. You know, you can imagine what do they do for somebody that blown bad parking or whatever? Bloody hell, Arica someplace. Arica, when you go see Arica, but that just brought it home.
There seems to be some strong opinions on the subject of religion in their comments, David. Say, but I don't have any strong opinions on it. I believe that people have the right to believe what they want.
Yeah.
Same way I believe that trans people are equal to anybody else.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We've got a right to an opinion, right? Except when it's no to Scottish independence. Then bastards.
Aye, there's that as well. As nothing's come up, we may as well have a wee we may as well have a wee chin wag about Trump and his ongoing tariff war. It's going well, isn't it?
Here we go.
It's going well.
Yeah. It's like, over this weekend we had China have cancelled 8,830 Boeing airplanes, which they've placed orders for.
I don't really know.
20 years, right? So you can imagine what that did to the price of the Boeing shares. They went, that down the way, right? And anybody else that produces airplanes all of a sudden went, here we go, like quickly get your ass in the other airlines in China and actually find out if they need any replacements, right? So Airbus's stock and shares have gone up like you wouldn't believe, right? So watch this space. It's rather interesting, it really is.
So I mean, his drive to bring manufacturing back to America is going well, and Ford's left, John Deere's left. And mental, and the tech bros are going nuts as they watch their stock tumble. You get right down to it. China are winning.
Yeah. Well, it's not just China that are winning. It's like you can go through. Canada are winning through what they are doing. Europe are winning through what they are doing, right? China win obviously with what they're doing. The most important thing is who's losing. America are losing big style.
Aye.
And at some point they'll hit the rock bottom, right? Is that the point when Trump goes, what we're going to do is we're going to change that, we're going to do this, right? And at that moment he effectively gets 95% of what he wanted in the first place. Remember the idea that we talked about? You make it sound as bad as it can get, and then all of a sudden you go, we're not going to quite do that. And everybody goes, oh, thank goodness for that. And then it cheers on what has been done. with Trump, that may be the case. I don't know. Or is he just that stupid? Yeah, again.
I'll tell you how stupid he's no. Whatever he's playing at. He's decided he's not taking the rap for it, so he's handed it off to J.D. Vance and made him the tariff czar.
Yeah, with his wee beady eyes going out.
David, here's a wee prediction for you, right?
Go on,
Now, he's put a 90-day moratorium on the higher tariffs on everybody except for China. So everybody's on a 10% tariff.
The last figure I saw was 245%.
Aye, on China, aye.
Fuck's sake, man.
China just went like, you're not buying your shit either. But hey, what's really interesting is obviously it's putting American businesses out of business. Amazon's pissed off because it sources most of its goods in China.
Yeah.
He is going after China big style. It's not working.
Oh, America, I've spotted Davey talking and the frozen, the blooming picture. Oh dear. Oh, here we go. Can't hear you. Hang on, speak again.
It's fascinating watching meltdown in America, David, as we swap sides.
Yeah. That means I'm going to do a fucking rant now. Make things seem.
Let me get back to my prediction before I forget it, David.
Right,
but 90-day moratorium on the higher tariffs on other nations, with the exception of China, right? So 10% blanket. I'll bet you he crashes the market in 90 days' time again. Yo-yo up and down, as they cash in more and more and more.
Yeah, well, true.
Because you know what happens in 90 days when he says these tariffs are back on? The market's going to crash again.
Yeah.
Then another 90-day recovery. Crash. They can do that until they're until they're taking everything.
Yeah.
That's quite a wheeze, isn't it?
Yeah, weird wheeze. Yeah.
I mean, how many true social posts we go to get saying now's a good time to buy? You know, how many of them are we going to get before America takes some action against this criminal?
They won't take any action against him, David. That's the whole point about it, right? He's a politician. They won't. The political to and fro they get, right? The only way you would get that happen is if his own party, the Republicans, all turned against him. That's a different matter.
That's going that way as well as red states, one after another.
It's not going that way wholeheartedly. There's a lot of them. There's a majority of the want to keep Trump exactly in the place, right? And when you look at the real trouble, it's not Trump, it's Vance. When Trump eventually goes, and when the 25th amendment of the Constitution is read out, right, Vance will be delighted. He gets his own way. He becomes the president of the United States.
But anyway, that's my prediction for when this moratorium's up on this 90 days.
Yeah.
I think he'll do it again. I think he'll only do it once more, but I think he'll do it again. And I don't think he'll do it in a social media tweet this time.
Well, you know, the fact that things are going so badly for him, I mean, definitely the Chinese thing with cancelling airplanes for Boeing. Boeing's one of the most important exporters in the world, right? And you know, relies very much on America being healthy economically, and that's it. They're going down the tubes as we speak. They are going down the tubes.
There's a good question, Philipson. Could this market crash in malarkey be likened to money laundering?
Yes, it could. Definitely could. Yeah.
And we know where he got it. We actually know where he got the idea from because he watched Liz Truss date with the money markets.
Yeah.
When she crashed the UK economy.
Yeah.
Oh. In
any situation like that, you've got winners and losers, right? The winners tend to be those with money rather than those who are sort of on the road up, or I've got a little bit of money, or get no money at all, right? Those people lose out. It's the people with money that make, right? And it's such a bloody shame.
Well,
And
they're
when
all
you,
making money in Scotland, David, as you know. I mean,
well, when you,
Liz
yeah,
Truss told the traders in the city which she was going to do. They shorted on the pound.
yeah,
They knew the Bank of England was going to have to step in and stabilise things. They shorted on the pound, made a fortune, and Liz Truss let them do it and told them how to do it
yeah,
and tell them when to do it, and that's
yeah,
what Trump's done.
yeah.
You know,
Well, when you look at the people that actually put Trump in place to begin with, right? If you talk about the Russians for a start, Putin, and when you talk about the wars, movements at the back there, we know what happened, because when Trump was talking about trying to create the peace with Ukraine and all the rest of it, he was speaking like part of Russia, right? So the Russians definitely a part, right? Next part is Musk, Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, all the rest of it, right? And so these people had money that they used to put them in place, and then eventually they came back out saying, right, now it's our turn.
thanks, June. I thought you like that. So are we saying Liz Truss was the experiment?
Yeah, but could have been.
You know, that's
I'll be honest with you, I will never, ever buy another lettuce in my life again.
I'm having some in my salad tonight, David. Which I'll be sticking down my go shot in 4 minutes' time.
Yeah.
Because we're rounding up.
Yeah.
Nice relaxed one of the day, David. No bang, 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 a subject, just a nice, easy one. Well, as a bank holiday, and a lot of people, on downtime, viewing figures are still good, though, 154 watching live at the moment.
Yeah.
So thanks, everyone. Thanks for your kind donations today.
Yes. Oh, here we are. We're frozen up again. David does that the most. So anyway, taking on from what he says, please, if you haven't left a like, please like what we did, and also share as much as possible. I don't know what David still has to make the Facebook thing open again so people can just share straight away or not. But also, if you haven't subscribed to our channel and you're sitting there as one of the people that are keeping quiet, you could be keeping quiet, just watch what's going on. Please subscribe to us, because that changes the algorithm of society, and it means that the money that we get for food banks increases a little bit. Yeah, so please do that.
Aye.
David, you all right? How you feeling? You okay?
I know it's the bloody thing dropped off again, David. You know what happens here. Weather's changed. Internet gets dodgy again.
Why it says you blooming Charlie the cat stood on the cable. That would happen.
No, he definitely didn't. He's on the table where he always is. So he is. Right, as I was saying, the cut off for YouTube is the day. The money will come in the 26th, 27th. And I'm away all that weekend, but when I get back, I'll go on here. I'm trying to remember, where are we going? Oh, we're going to Glasgow. That's where we're going. Okay, so we're looking at Castlemilk Easter House and Drumchapel, the biggest estate.
Definitely Drumchapel, because I know for a fact that they need help. All right, so.
I just say they're the biggest house in the States. They're the biggest needs it. Okay. Right. Catch you later, David.
Catch you later, David. Bye, guys.
So we'll catch you all later. I'll see you all in the morning, folks. 10:30.